Salutations, respected viewers. I am George from Ireland, and this video is going to be about Hiberno English. So, in case you don't know, Hiberno English is the type of English which is spoken in Ireland. Now, obviously, there's some variety within Ireland because we're not tiny. Ireland, I'm trying to think, well, we're 300 miles north to south, about 200 east to west at the widest point. We have coming up from 7 million people. Our population's close to finally recovering from the famine, 170 years on. So Hibernia is the Latin name for Ireland. That's why I call it that, because if you say Irish English, people think, what? It could be mistaken to be the Irish language or something like that. But Hiberno English is what I prefer to call it to avoid that confusion, because there is an Irish language which is unrelated to English, commonly called Gaelic by some people. But if you actually are Irish, you'd simply call the Irish language Irish while speaking English, or else Gaeilge if you're speaking in Irish. But I'm telling you about Hiberno English. So I'm going to give you examples of a few of our words. A few Irish words from the Irish language are actually used in the English language, as well as somewhat unusual English words or forms of English that we use in Hiberno English. So there's garçon, for instance, to mean boy, but I wonder if that's borrowed from French, like garçon. Donnybrook, which is meaning a fight. Donnybrook is also an area of Dublin, and I wonder was notorious for fisticuffs. Amadorn, that means a fool, if someone's called an Amadorn. Ceilidh, that's a party. Well, sometimes people say, oh, it's a kitchen party, like in somebody's house, but they say that one in Scotland as well. I don't think it necessarily means a particular form of dancing. We say a fleadh to mean a festival, or you can say feis, Ardesh, meaning high festival. A party conference could be an Ardesh. Ard, on its own, just means high. Romesh, which could mean long, useless speech, just waffle, or but like rambling. Now, saying Burn a Whale, the gap of danger. Like in Irish legends, there was this narrow valley, which was the gateway to Ulster. The hills around it weren't that high, but that was the gap of danger, Burn a Whale. Saying Colleen, we don't usually say that, meaning girl or young woman. Irish has got genders, and oddly the word for girl is actually neuter. Actually masculine, even worse. But apart from that, the genders actually make sense. So saying lads, now to my mind, lads is strictly only males. Obviously, that's an English word, English argot we use while speaking English in Ireland. The others were words directly taken from the Irish language and sometimes peppering Hiberno English, because people blend languages occasionally. But I have heard people use lads to mean including women as well. I think if the group was exclusively female, one wouldn't say that. Okay, boreen, meaning lane, from the Irish word bor, as in road. I shan't tell you the spellings of all these things because in Irish we have quite a few silent letters. We don't have the th sound, for instance. We have a fodder, which is like an acute accent, making the I a long E sound, for instance. You can put it over I as well, but I shan't get into that. Banshee. Banshee, well, it's literally fairy woman, but it's more like a witch. It's definitely bad, a banshee haunting you. So people swear quite casually in Ireland, and doesn't appear to be as venomous as in other codes of English. And saying feck, if you just change the U to an E, you somehow Bowdlerized it, I'm not sure. I remember some barmaid not liking where we were sitting years ago and telling us to feck off. Now I thought, but if you actually said fuck, what do you really mean? That would be exceedingly offensive. But does that somehow soften it or just obviate any sense of insult? I don't think so. You're not fooling me. So that's that. I thought, well, don't have the minced oath. If you want to swear, say it. Otherwise, don't semi-swear. Now, I know people, well, in Kerry, for example, are notorious for their bad language, but often there's no malice behind it. It's just quite a low-key thing. I remember I had a colleague from Kerry, and I told this Kerryman something which was surprising, and he said, fuck off. Not wishing to be offensive at all, but just that was a way of saying, wow, I don't believe you. But I should have explained to him, in the rest of the Anglosphere, that's an outrageous thing to say, and people wouldn't realise that he's not intending to upset them. Or I remember Kerriman saying about Jackie Healy-Rae, this politician, he's a cute whore. Whore as in a pronunciation of whore. Not to say that this man is actually a gigolo, but means that he's sneaky or he's cunning. Other words like gurrier, which again is to do with class prejudice. It's an urban working class person, or possibly from the underclass. Working class actually have a job. But or what's another one a bit like that? Traveller in Ireland means people from a particular community who were itinerant. Sometimes they're settled people, but they were almost an indigenous ethnic minority. It doesn't mean someone who takes a rucksack to go around Southeast Asia for 3 months. Culture, that means somebody from the countryside. Kip means an untidy place or an undesirable place, like the flat, or even or a town that you think is dreadful. So there was Kipure in Dublin. I'm not sure it's to do with that district's name. Jackeen, meaning a Dubliner. There's theories that when Edward VII visited, or Queen Victoria, the Dubliners waved the British flag as in the Union Jack. So een, the suffix een makes anything small, little jacks. Or, because Jack Tar was a symbol of the United Kingdom, or particularly Great Britain. And it was a pejorative thing to say in Ireland that somebody was wanting to believe that being Irish and British were compatible. Calling someone a West Brit, that's someone who's either a unionist or insufficiently nationalist. If you're not Anglophobic, you're a West Brit. So that's intended to be opprobrious, but I've reclaimed it. Yeah, I am a West Brit and elated to be one. Jacks to mean the lavatory. I'm just trying to think, what are other good ones? Yous, that's you plural. We also say ye. Occasionally there's a bit of Elizabethan English in Ireland, because I suppose, we've had the English language in Ireland a little bit since the 12th century. But when did it become the language of the majority? Certainly by the 19th century it was, but maybe in the 16th century it really began to take off. Significant numbers of English immigrants come again. Previous English immigrants had gradually been Gaelicized. But there we are. So you can say use, particularly in Dublin and its environs, people say that one. In Scotland, likewise, people say use to mean you more than plural, like the tu vu distinction. They're saying get out of it, as in go away, get out of here, but saying get out of it. Pronouncing it like get out of it, especially if you're a Dubliner. So obviously there's some variety from a Belfast accent to a Dublin accent to a Cork accent to the Irish Midlands. Notably in the Irish Midlands, people accentuate a different intent to say Midlands, laying the stress on the second syllable, not the first. So Ireland's 4 provinces, in case you don't know. The western one is Connacht, pronounced Connacht, not Connaught. I've heard some English people who think that it's a silent GH in that word, but it's not. And this Connemara is part of Galway. I knew some people erroneously believe Connemara is a county. It's not. It's a section of a county. Counties were subdivided into baronies. Because, a long time ago, there'd be one count for each county. But an earl and count, they're equivalent. In English-speaking countries, earl would be the title. But it was in Germany or Romania, speaking English, would say that title is count, is equivalent. And a baron for each barony. But the system rapidly broke down. There could be more than one baron per barony. There could be some baronies without a baron. There could be more than one count or earl per county. Some counties wouldn't have any earl or count, and blah, blah, blah. A margrave ruling a margravate. That's why there's a mark as a huge area of land as in Denmark, or the marches, like the border areas, like the Welsh marches and so on, or le marche in Italy. But I'm getting a bit off the topic. So an example of Elizabethan English: have you €50, rather than do you have €50. Another thing is since we started using euros, being very continental, saying euro plural, not euros. So ye as another you plural, which is obviously in standard British English has fallen out of usage a very long time ago, over a century ago. Even when Rudyard Kipling was writing ye in his poesy, that was anachronistic. To say that it's to be sarcastic, you might say, I did on my eye. But again, this is quite old-fashioned, meaning I definitely did not. I did on my tail. Tail being sort of a minced oath for your bottom. So I certainly did not. Like, did you let her into the house? I did on my tail means absolutely not. A bit like saying my foot in other forms of English. Let's go. Well, in Hiberno English, saying come on, so, particularly in Cork. Come on, so. Like in the Cork City accent, it's a high-pitched, whiny accent. Certainly the vernacular form of it. Your hole, meaning your anus, but often they're not really talking about that. They're just being rude generally. But shut your hole could mean your mouth, obviously. It could mean another orifice. In Cork, I'm after whatever. It means I have just done something. I'm after being insulted by a terrible man. It means I have just been insulted by a terrible man. Let me see. Reaffirmation. Okay, reaffirmation is when you say something and then you confirm it immediately, say, so we did. We became good friends, so we did. But that's an Ulster thing, particularly the eastern half of Ulster. And curiously, it's also said in Coatbridge, Scotland. Town of Coatbridge has got a large Irish community, and people were several generations descended from Irish people, as in they haven't maybe never been to Ireland. It was their great-grandparents who came from Ireland or something. Some of them in Coatbridge are also saying, so we did afterwards. Okay, saying arse to mean your buttocks, or arse is sometimes pronounced. Americans would say ass. That one, so it's a bit like standard British English, but we pronounce it more like arse rather than arse. Incidentally, I don't speak Hiberno English, but I'm familiar with that code. I remember my driving instructor one time talking about a motorist who's too close behind us saying, this fella seems to be having a love affair with our arse. Okay, so saying fella, meaning man. Egypt, that's idiot. Just trying to think of other examples of it. We tend to say on holidays. Notice the plural, holidays, whereas standard British English would say on holiday. She is on holiday. We don't say vacation. So they're Gaelic games, as in hurling and Gaelic football. Someone who plays hurling is a hurler. It's a bit like field hockey, or just hockey, if you're speaking British English, with these sticks. The sticks are a little bit different, and that leather ball, the slitter. I won't go into the rules of it. I've never played it, actually. But so, and a hurley is the stick that is played with, just like the surname of Liz Hurley. A hurler in the ditch, and again, this is very old-fashioned, is someone who just watches and critiques and claims to be an expert but doesn't participate, saying so-and-so is a hurler in the ditch. But again, that would be a criticism because someone, well, is just looking on. And yes, it's easy to disparage others if you're not taking part yourself. Yeah, in Ireland, football could mean Gaelic football, right? And again, it's not what's internationally known as football. Strangely, okay, Gaelic football, I won't go into it too much, but it's formalised 1884 with the foundation of the Gaelic Athletic Association. So you have a ball, a spherical ball, that people can solo, as in kick up to themselves, run with for 3 steps. They can do a hand pass, not actually allowed to throw it, have to hit it with the heel of their hand and things like that. So get it into the goal for 3 points, over the bar for 1 point. I won't go into all the rules of it. I've only played it very few times. But anyway, in the Republic of Ireland, you say football, you might well be meaning that, Gaelic football, as opposed to soccer. So in the United States and Australia, soccer is what the rest of the world calls football. Trouble is, in Northern Ireland, if you say football, you might really mean football as in soccer, but you might mean Gaelic football if in the GAA. But it all depends on context. You're talking about cross-channel football, as in over in England, we're watching their teams, we might just say football rather than soccer. Confusing, I know. Now, in schools, quite often the person in charge is called a principal, not saying headmaster or headmistress so much. People in the Republic of Ireland do the Leaving Cert as their school leaving exam at the age of 18. Obviously, cert short for certificate. Now, there are all sorts of Irish language signs you'll see in the roads, like Gil Shlee, as in give way. But if you're familiar with the road signs in Great Britain, they'll be all the same shape and colour. So you can get that from that. That obviously means give way. Because we're a bilingual country, Irish is the first national language according to the 1937 Constitution. The Republic of Ireland, Irish has got some official status in Northern Ireland too. But the thing is, in the Republic of Ireland, we use the second official language, English, almost all the time. But then that Gael Shlee is not translated. You just expect it to know. college meaning university usually, whereas in Great Britain, college could mean a secondary school. Although college in the Republic of Ireland, it can mean a professional association, like the Irish College of General Practitioners or something like that. Yeah, St. Stephen's Day, that's the 26th of December. In Great Britain, that would be Boxing Day. So the Wren boys go around in Ireland on St. Stephen's Day, well, dressed up in funny, costumes, and singing people's houses, the Wren, the Wren, the king of all birds, telling the tale of how he flew up higher than any other bird to see who was the king of birds. He tricked the eagle by resting on the eagle's back and getting off the eagle's back and flying just a little bit higher than the eagle could, and then that's why he's the king of the birds, because our feathered friends held this competition to see who could fly the highest and therefore be king over all feathered beasts, and collecting money for charity. Part of this mummery, sometimes dressing up as women even. Crack. Now, even a lot of people are not Irish will know crack. It's spelled C-R-A-I-C. I'm usually not spelling these words, but not the usual spelling of crack, meaning fun. And many Irish pubs will offer crack agus ceol. Fun and music is what it is. Or in West Cork some years ago, they used to say something as gas, as in fun, energetic. I don't think that one's in usage very much anymore. There's bowrawn, as in that's a special musical instrument. Okay, it's got a DH in the middle, so a lot of people who are not Irish pronounce it bod haran. Well, how are they supposed to know? Yeah, the one thing in Ireland that has never been said is top of the morning to you. I don't know where on earth that came from, but there's a lot of paddy whackery and stage Irish people imagining that one said. So a few political terms, the Oireachtas, which means our legislature, Dáil Éireann, which is like Irish Parliament, but that really only refers to the lower chamber. There's the upper chamber, which is the Senate. I suppose you could say Seanad if you really want to pronounce it the Irish way. And Taoiseach, as in the Prime Minister, but even speaking the English language, people tend to use the Irish word. Or the plural Taoiseach. The president, you can say Uachtaráin, which is like chieftain, Oris an Uachtaráin. When Elizabeth II came to Dublin at the state dinner in Dublin Castle, she addressed the president as Uachtaráin. One of my English friends didn't know what that was. So a bit unusual in English to use the Irish word, which is chieftain, because of course, when most of Ireland became an independent country, well, what we're going to call our head of state, what is that in Irish? We don't really have a word for president. Chieftain is the equivalent. We'll do that one. So that's about it. Anyway, it's scintillating to see how we've borrowed some Irish words and used them in Hiberno English, just like English occasionally use words of Irish origin, such as brogue and, well, other ones escape me right now. So that's Hiberno English.